What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video on this 2020 Husqvarna 701 Supermoto. What a year it has been so far. Not only did I get the opportunity to purchase one of my dream bikes, I have received the opportunity to buy two of my dream bikes. That's right, this 2020 Husqvarna 701 Supermoto is my bike. I can't begin to express my thankfulness and gratitude for being able to have this motorcycle as well as my ZX-10. This is a used, almost new 701 Supermoto. Ever since its introduction in 2016, I went nuts over this bike. If you're a Supermoto junkie, or you like Supermotos, or you want a Supermoto, you know this is pretty much the king of Supermotos, street legal Supermotos. This bike has a 693cc single cylinder engine, which is packing a very whopping punch at 74 horsepower. This thing packs a whopping 54 foot-pounds of torque and weighing only 319 pounds. This is an absolute monster of a motorcycle. Let me tell you guys why I bought this motorcycle, other than it being an absolute just dream bike. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to buy this motorcycle was the versatility. Let's face it, I love a good super sport. I love a good sport bike, but I want a practical motorcycle to ride to and from. That's a little tough with a sport bike. You know it, I know it, we all know it. This thing has an upright positioning. It's very, very comfortable. The ergonomics are just so nice.
It's nice. It's nice.
It's light, narrow, and nimble. It's got the power, right, to get up and out of the way. And even though this bike has a seat height of 35 inches, it's really not that much to manage. I am 5'8" with a very short inseam. Like, my pants length is a 32. And I will admit, it is a little tough getting on this bike, but it is very manageable once you figure out some secrets and some tips to get your leg over the motorcycle and upright. Now, once I get the kickstand up, I've got my weight on it, I can actually tippy-toe this bike pretty good. The fact that it's very light, it makes it very effortless. A lot of people want to know what the top speed of this bike is. You know, with it being a dirt bike, the top speed is roughly around like 125, 135, somewhere around there. I will do this soon and make a video on it. If you guys know anything about this 701 Supermoto, you'll know it has a brother, the 701 Enduro, and it's a little different. Obviously, the wheels and tires are the biggest difference, but everything is fairly similar. It doesn't have the big 4-piston Brembo calipers up front. The brakes are a smidge different, but not too much. With this being the 2020 version, we have got an update of electronics. This bike has 2 power modes, and so far, if you leave the power in one, which is your city, right, your standard power, what Husqvarna says is it doesn't change the power output, it just changes the power curve, essentially. You have got traction control, which you have the option to turn off to cover the second power mode. The second power mode basically allows you to slide this bike around and wheelie this thing for days. Power mode 1, it doesn't let the front wheel come up much at all, if any. You can turn the ABS off, turn the traction off, put this thing in power mode 2, and absolutely rip this thing. This bike has a slipper clutch, so backing this thing in can be effortless if you know how to do it. And right now, as I talk to you, I'm obviously downshifting without a clutch, and it's up and down. You can shift up and down without using the clutch. I will say though, I do have a pretty big gripe about this. 1st to 2nd is rough, and 4th to 5th is rough shifting up. Downshifting, this bike has 0 issues, but the upshifts are kind of kind of wonky. This bike is pretty much set up from the factory. There is nothing you have to do to this bike to make it better than what it already is. The gearing is very, very tall. I think that's the correct terminology. It's very long, if that makes sense. I went to the Heron compound recently. Took this and the Z125 down there. Whoops. And obviously the Z does great because it's, you know, the gearing is, it's not that tall, it doesn't make that much power, but you can kind of go highway speeds. This thing, being that you can go 130, it doesn't have good kart track gearing. Obviously this thing ripped around there, rode like it was on rails. This thing would be awesome on a big track. The only issue I believe it would have would be somewhere like Road Atlanta or Coda, right? For those of you guys out there, that has a very, very long straight. And that's really, I think, where this thing would lack. Obviously you can carry a ton of corner speed. This thing is just, I mean, I cannot wait to play with some big bikes, with bikes making, you know, double this power, and just ride with them, right? It's not a ton of bike to handle, because it's, you know, you're talking, it's 100 pounds less than a sport bike, your typical 600 to 1000. I didn't really get this thing to do super duper track days. I didn't want this to be a track bike. This is going to be just a mountain carving, commuting bike. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's comfy. I could ride this thing all day, depending on how hard the seat gets. Obviously it's a dirt bike seat. And if we want to talk relative bikes, the only thing that comes close to this bike competition wise is the KTM 690. It's the same engine. These bikes are identical except for the bodywork. There's some minor differences there. Honda has their 250 and 450Ls, which their 450L is just shy of this bike cost-wise. This bike in 2020 was 11.9. Now the 21s are 12, essentially 12.1, 12.099. The Honda 450 is a ton of money. It's a good looking bike, but it doesn't make nowhere near the power. It doesn't go nowhere near as fast. You've got the Suzuki DRZ 400, probably the most popular street legal supermoto option on the road today. The issue with that is it's heavy, it's carbureted, and it doesn't make a lot of power. The instrument cluster is pretty basic. It's not a lot to look at. The fuel tank on this thing, guys, it's underneath my butt.
Butt for protection.
So your center of gravity, the balance of this bike is phenomenal. This thing has a fuel light, not a fuel gauge. It only shows you speedometer and mileage and time. I fill up about 110 to 150, kind of your standard mileage, 50 to 60 miles a gallon. It does it all. It does it all really well. One of the biggest issues that this bike has, and other 690 engines, right, the 693 KTM Duke engine, is these gosh darn slave cylinders. They are notorious for going bad. Guys will buy these bikes straight off the showroom floor, and that's the first thing they do with 0 miles is swap that slave cylinder out. And unfortunately, I've had to do that already. That's kind of a nuisance and annoyance if you expect to buy a bike straight from the showroom, go ride it for a few hundred miles, and next thing you know, you're stranded because you can't get this thing to stop. You know, you can't pull in the clutch. You ride this thing and you think, man, this thing is just a big old dirt bike. It's pretty standard. There's nothing super special. This bike couldn't be more special. The way it makes you feel and giggle when this thing power wheelies in second and third, there's no other way to describe the feeling. And you know, that's what motorcycles should do. They should make you feel awesome every time you ride. You know, and if not, find you a different bike. If you guys have any question about this 701 Supermoto, leave a comment down below. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, especially if you made it all the way to this video. We're trying to hit 20K, and I can't wait to get there. As always, guys, ride safe, have fun. We'll see you on the next one.
I want to go fast.